Welcome to Tile Trends by Tile Club. This week, we are honored to have a very special guest, interior designer and season 4 winner of HGTV's Rock the Block, the one and only Michel Smith Boyd.
I can finally celebrate. I can tell people.
We are so excited to chat with you about your recent win. This is an extra special treat for me to actually be able to sit face to face and hear a little bit more about what inspires you as a designer.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. So I just love your aesthetic and, of course, your creativity when it comes to bringing attainable luxury to home design, that kind of idea of leveling the playing ground for everybody and that nothing is out of reach.
I didn't imagine that I would land here where that would be the hill I stand on, but I'm proud to do it.
It just, I think, brings a lot of hope to people who might think that they, will never, ever have what they see in magazines or what we see on HGTV. But the truth is, it is possible and it is attainable.
Calling yourself a luxury designer is a thing, right? I like this little crown. It's almost like a disclaimer to clients, like, this is what I do. This is what I like. But along the way, early on, I discovered that education about what we do is happening the same time as we're doing it. A lot of our clients, we were working with designers for the first time. So getting them to understand what we do was the first part. And then we had to get them to understand that they actually deserve the luxury that they're attracted to. And so it was a whole other thing. And that's why my hashtag is How to Luxury, because, it's subjective. It's a case-by-case situation. And it doesn't have to be inherited. It doesn't have to be your mom's version of luxury or even what you saw on television or what you think it is. Maybe it's not gilded for you. Maybe it's more experiential. And so my team and I are always on a mission to help our clients figure out what their version of luxury is, how they want to see it in their homes, and have their guests experience it.
That's amazing. So, of course, congratulations on your recent win. And we just want to know, how did it feel to take first place on the season of Rock the Block?
First of all, it's an honor to be asked to do Rock the Block. That's one. There are 135 shows on this network. And we'd filmed Lux for Less, and it was in the can, and it's going to air December 1. But we started filming Rock the Block in October. So the idea of being asked to do the biggest show on the network before my show even aired was insane. And so the honor was being invited, and I was clear on that. And I was sure that Anthony and I made a pact that we were going to do our best to impress ourselves and each other. Like, we just leave it all on the floor, right? We're here, we have something to prove. We're the newbies, nobody knows who we are. So we really had to turn out great work. And so winning it just really didn't occur to me that we could win. There's a show full of 6 other veterans on the show. I don't know. We were just so focused on making those weekly challenges and making our point of view really clear. Designing for television is so different from designing in real life. It has to be good for the camera because people aren't there to touch it and feel it and smell it and sit and, have that tactile experience or encounter with the pieces. When we won, that surprise was authentic. It was so genuine. I was like, because I don't know why, but I thought, no, those fireworks are just fake. That's not our house. Like, that's gotta be somebody else's house. When those fireworks went off, I couldn't hear Ty say Michelle and Anthony. We didn't hear it. And so because all of our castmates were clapping at us, we're like, oh my God. It was authentic. And last week when I watched the show for the first time, I experienced it all over again because it was such a surprise. An incredible blessing. Inside, I was weeping, but I was trying to keep my TV face together, but it was an honor, really.
That is so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let's talk about what tiles you use for your projects on the show. Tile Club had the amazing opportunity of supplying tiles to all 4 teams this season. What made you choose those particular tiles?
I wanted to keep it really classic. I'm going through this phase right now. I'm having my bout with minimalism. I've never been a minimalist designer. I've always been quite maximalist. Somewhere between Tony Duquette and Vincent Wolf, and just properly placed. And I love a good edit. But I am having this bout with minimalism, and I think it's post-pandemic. I want to tell stories with less stuff, right? To leave room for life, for our clients to add their touches and so forth. And I brought it to Rock the Block, but again, for television, minimalism doesn't exactly work. And so the tile especially needed to do a lot of the work for me. And in that kitchen specifically, the hand molded black subway tiles, that's something you can see. You can see from the camera that these aren't exactly perfect and smooth like you see all the time. The new take on this thing is that it doesn't have to be perfect. And that, there's a differentiation between the two that's creating this texture that becomes really interesting, like art. And that's what I felt about the backsplash of that kitchen. And not only it looking artful, but going all the way up to the ceiling to making a big statement. And I got to tell you, oh my God. And we did it around the arch doors too. That's something that I figured out in the field. I was like, I think I wanted to go around the doors. Let's treat the whole wall. In the room just ends up feeling more expensive and more substantial. And oh man, it was such an impact. I was so proud of that. So, so proud.
We were blown away when we saw images from that kitchen and everything you said. Like, I'm like, you're checking the boxes for me because I'm like, he took it all the way up to the ceiling and he went over the arch, and like, it was extraordinary. It was just beautifully, artfully done. And we couldn't be more proud as a brand seeing our tiles showcased in that capacity. So,
I mean, and no pressure, right? Like, of course, we gotta appeal to the network audience, appeal to the network, please ourselves, but also do you guys proud. I mean, it's an honor to work with companies like you, and I always want to represent well. And I mean, when I saw them in person, and I got to place a few of them, right? Now on television, it looked like I installed them all. That didn't happen. Truth told. But I got to place a few of them, and just watching it, I could literally sit and watch masons just do tile all day. I could just sit and just watch it transform, because it's drywall behind there, right? But you forget, once that tile goes up, it feels solid. It feels, man, like you really have something valuable.
Definitely. It's been educational for me, for those of us who work in digital media, to see what all goes into the art of tiling. So.
I think that's a part of the romance that I love about interior design. I really do, is watching people who are experts at what they do. Our part of our job is compiling experts, right? That are going to be able to fully execute our vision. I mean, I can come up with the best ideas, but I don't know how to do all of these things. And so we've got to seek out these experts that actually make us look like rock stars, and, tile people are like between tilers and wallpaper installers. I'm like,
yes, those coverings. I love it. Well, let's move on into interior design trends. I love that you highlighted minimalism. There's been this shift from the pandemic. What do you think will continue to be popular in 2023?
I think one of the things that's going to continue to be popular, especially if I have anything to say about it, is going to be what I love about that hand molded feel about that tile is that it's like beautifully imperfect. Somehow for me visually, it adds texture. And so plaster is one of those things that I just love. We did a lot in the pandemic, as opposed to just white walls, which I have in the studio. We did a lot of Venetian plaster. I love something that's matte. I love matte too. Something that's matte with movement and just this repetition of pattern. I just love that. And I think we'll continue to see more plaster find its way into interiors in larger scale and so forth. I think it used to be relegated for urns, right? Things like that, only like vessels. But now more chandeliers, more tile. There's a couple coffee tables in here. Even the artwork behind me has that plaster feel. It's like a pumice in there. And so I'm incorporated into my personal collections as much as possible, but just the texture. It does a lot of the work for you, especially with new construction. I think one of the things that we struggle with is making new construction feel interesting, right? It's very pretty and fresh, and we love that. And then it's like a little boring. And that kitchen that we saw, that we did on Rock the Block, adding that tile made that room have a personality and almost a sense of history. And pairing that with those antique doors, it's like the kitchen already had a story and you get to add to it, as opposed to waiting for the gravy stains to hit the wall. I love the idea of just that, something that was created by hand, at least the look of that. I think that's a trend that's really going to continue. And it's just one more way that a client can have that feeling of something really customized.
That's brilliant. Can you tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to become an interior designer, a little bit about your history and how your career has grown and continues to impress and dazzle us all?
That's a strange thing, that the career thing, because when you're in it, you're not really aware of it. It's really seldom that I understand the gravity of what's happening right now, especially with television, just because you really have to be fully present. I personally have to be fully present in order to deliver in that space, which makes it really tough, for the firm, because that means I'm not as attentive to clients and so forth, which is very difficult because that's the only reason I'm here. And it's still the bulk of our business. I don't know how I became an interior designer. You know how God just drops those little nuggets? I got a brick. I actually met a designer and he took me to the design center in New York. And honestly, I've said the story 100 times, but that's when my life changed. I wanted to be an architect when I was a kid. I fell in love with fashion as an adult, and interior design is the perfect romantic merger between the two. Later, I discovered that I needed to be really good at business and social media and organization and budgeting and all those other things. But at the core, interior design really answers and quenches all of my design curiosities. It really allows me to be all the things I love to be. And so I was really grateful to discover it. And when I did, I felt like I was behind. I graduated from design school at like 30, 31. So it was a second career. And so I've been racing against the clock ever since. And I really just recently gave myself permission to, you know what? Let's let this evolve naturally. I thought I was done with television. I didn't want to do anymore. When we started filming before we started filming Lux for Less, I had a show on Bravo a few years ago, and I thought, I think I can build this brand and tell these stories without television. And boy, was I wrong, right? So the idea of watching it grow and evolve and being a part of that and driving it has been really interesting. But I will attribute it to relationships, understanding your call, and just trying to do things daily, take projects that move you closer to that calling and reach more people who would benefit. When you figure out how to serve other people with your gift and or call, then I think you're on the right path.
I love that.
Yeah. And I want to be clear that I don't judge success on visibility, because I know incredibly talented designers way beyond, people whose names we know, right? That just don't want this part of it. And this is a beast all its own, the visibility part, or making television or building a brand and so forth. That doesn't equate to talent, but I think it's a part of my story, and a part of my journey. I think that's just how it's supposed to go in order to be that voice that reminds, everyone. Inclusion doesn't just work for, race or weight or, you name it. I think it works for having a great life at home also. I don't think anybody's excluded from that. And I just happen to be one of the people yelling that from the mountaintop.
Yes, you are for sure an inspiration. And speaking of that, what advice would you offer aspiring designers?
Okay, 100 things flood towards me, right? I think that the first step, we could talk about the business and all that stuff like that, but let's just keep it romantic. But also paramount is your point of view. You have to figure out what your point of view is. And you have to ask yourself that really, really tough question, which everybody hates. It's hard to answer, but what's special about you? I mean, what's unique about your story? Why you and not him? Or why you and not her? And that's the first and only time you should ever compare. But in that place, it's important because it helps you figure out your point of view and what is unique about what you're going to deliver to the marketplace. And once you figure that out, then what really becomes important is how that thing, that unique thing, makes everybody else feel. Figuring out what your voice is and what your point of view is, and how you can bring your unique experience to design is your first job.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Are there any unique challenges that you face with clients?
That's a funny question. Everybody's looking at me like, I'll say this, and I'm going to say it really carefully, but I think that the clients are now inundated with ideas, inundated more than ever. And it makes it a little tougher for us to do our jobs. And so it requires more patience. I can't think of what else, but I start with patience. And then, because, I don't ever want our clients to feel like they're not heard, right? But you did hire an expert. And I need you to allow us to be that. As many ideas as you've saved on Pinterest, are pinned on Pinterest, or as many things if you saved and screenshot on Instagram and they send constantly. I'm actually the designer that you hired. I promise you that our firm is capable of delivering what you need. I think that it's really overwhelming. It's kind of like you don't have to take your clients shopping with you anymore for them to get inundated with ideas and confused about what they want. They can just scroll. It's a very easy thing to do. So, reeling them back in and taking charge of the conversation and the direction of the project has become a bit of bigger of a task. As excited as I am about design moving towards the forefront and everyone believing that they're part of this, and understanding how design affects everything, I love all of that. The double-edged sword part of it is they feel more empowered to get involved in the conversation and kind of lead. And we got to share that. But the design firm has to be the leader.
Yeah.
There is a language that is necessary. And I think good communication can really save the relationship and also establish that respect, and that expertise. I love your idea. That sounds really cool. I think we might be able to use that application here because in this space, this would be much more effective because I always share a reason why. I don't just say, this is it, da, 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 da. I don't think I'll ever get to be that kind of designer. That's just not who I am. But I don't mind sharing a reason and some logic because I want our clients to understand our point of view and why we make the decisions we make on their behalf, which are in their best interest, right? And that's the kind of thing that kind of institutes that trust and the mutual respect.
Absolutely. I would love to ask you, what was the most rewarding interior design project that you've ever worked on? Is there one that just really stands out as kind of a masterpiece for you?
This is tough. Okay, during the pandemic, a lot of restaurants closed, a lot of businesses closed, restaurants in particular, which is a hard job, a hard business to have anyway. I partnered with Crate and Barrel during the pandemic to do all the interior design and all the exterior too, actually, for a restaurant in upstate New York that serves this community. It's such a sweet community, so beautiful. It was very Storybrooke. It was just really beautiful, in Red Hook, New York. It's something about the way what that barn is historic, right? What that barn represents in the community and how it's in an orchard and how even during the pandemic, people would come there to get fresh fruit, fresh veggies and so forth and so on. Being able to help bring the restaurant part to fruition to where they could come inside and enjoy the space. The fellowship was kind of magical. It felt really magical. And that's that romance that I love about design. And you know how music does that, right? Music, food. I think design is one of those, a third thing that unites people and you don't even realize it, right? A space just feels good. You don't know why. That was a good designer. There was a designer involved that had a vision, that understood what you were trying to achieve. And in that particular space, we were the team that got to add that value. The budget they were going to spend on furniture, they had to use on the exteriors so people could have somewhere to go. That's how much they cared about their community, the restaurant owners. And so the idea of bringing that love inside too with Crate was invaluable.
Well, it was amazing talking with you today, Michelle. I have about another minute for one more question for you. And I've just really enjoyed getting to know more about you and your career and even see, some of your heart and really where your love for design and for people comes into play. So thank you for being so vulnerable and open with us today. So my last question for you is, what are some of your future plans, and are there any projects that you are excited that are on the horizon for you this year?
I only ever got into this business to build a brand. Like that part I knew. It was like a trendy word at the time and so forth. And I was like, I don't know, who am I? But I started to figure out that, and we started with home fragrance. I have some licensed collections. I'm a painter and so forth, and I love those things. I'm launching some new things at High Point this spring with Left Bank Art. But I started out in the home fragrance category, and we launched exactly 1 week ago today. I even have a pop-up shop over at Curry on the 22nd, I think, this weekend. So I'm really excited about that. I can't just tell you that you deserve luxury and not be a resource for it. So, we have a budding e-com site. I'm really excited about that. Right now, it's just home fragrance and also the artwork. However, there's so much more to come. I'm really excited about.
That is amazing. I love High Point Market. I'm going to try to pop by and see. And Curry & Co. is amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that. And we'll, of course, link all of this information for our listeners so that they can jump in and check it out as well. So
Would you also mind linking Lux for Less? Lux for Less is my show on HGTV, and I have an amazing cast: Anthony, Kai, and Laura, of my friends that I love, and you can see this kind of authenticity between us. Once we won Rock the Block last Monday, Lux for Less, our show, came right back. And so we are now on Monday nights at 10 p.m. on HGTV, 10 p.m. Eastern, that is. And look out for the show that I just wrapped last week, Barbie Dreamhouse Challenge in July.
amazing. We have a few Barbie Dreamhouse things going on ourselves with Tile
Yeah.
Club. So
Oh, yeah.
all things Barbie coming up. So exciting. We will definitely be sure to link all of that information in the description so everybody can check it out and follow along your amazing journey and designs as well. Thanks so much for joining us today, Michelle, and happy tiling.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Happy tiling.